All right. Let's see if I remember how to do this. Hello and welcome to The Thread. This is a podcast about my journey to becoming a bona fide knitwear designer, all the things that I'm knitting on the side, and whatever other nerdy tangent I may or may not feel like skipping down this week. My name is Nicole. I am the nerdy knitwear designer behind Common Thread Fiber, and that's how you can find me on all the social medias, Instagram, Ravelry, Payhip, Ko-fi, obviously YouTube's, you know the drill. To all new viewers, hello, welcome, and to all returning viewers, it's been a minute, I know. So anyone who follows me on Instagram will know that I had a loss in my family a couple of weeks ago. You know, and it was rough. It was really rough. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I don't want to bum anybody out, but because of that, I took a week. So it's been, what, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks since we last spoke. And so obviously this is going to be my main podcast for the week. If you are a subscriber to my Ko-fi, we'll do an in-betweener next week and we'll be right back on schedule. So thank you so much for being patient with me. I just knew, even if I tried to tough it out and, you know, film last week, I was not fit for human consumption. I just wasn't. But this week I'm feeling lighter. You know, I'm still grieving. There's no way around that, but it's lighter. It's a lighter feeling. So I am more in the mood to chat about knitting and chat about, you know, all my designs. And it does mean that I have a lot to catch you guys up on. So we're going to talk about a finished object. Hey-oh. We're going to talk about some whips, which are mostly swatches, but they're super exciting. And one actual whip, you know, an actual, you know, project that's in progress. Pip, whip, pip. Anyway, if that all sounds good to you, then let's get into it. So we're going to start with my finished object. And I will pop in some footage of me wearing it. I'll pop in a couple pictures and maybe I'll take a video and show you guys what it looks like on. But it is just too damn hot for me to wear this. It is 77 degrees where I live. I live in Florida. So I know some people that what's the date today? It's today it's the 23rd. This will be coming out on the 24th or the 25th. Probably the 24th. We'll go back to regular schedule. This will be coming out on Friday. And I know that there's a good chunk of the country that is also in 77 degrees when y'all shouldn't be. And then there's a good chunk of the country that are in like Snowmageddon. So my sympathies, friends. But I live in Florida. So it is usually about 77 degrees, if not hotter. And it is just too damn hot to be wearing a worsted weight cardigan. But that is what I'm talking about. So for any new viewers, during Hurricane Ian, I casted on a kind of comfort project. And I wanted it to be a super vanilla cardigan. I wanted it to be steeked so I can knit it in the round. And so I just went straight to the Flax Pullover by Tin Can Knits. This is a free pattern, and it is size inclusive. I know that there are some complaints about the neckline. Those are the only complaints I've heard. That doesn't mean there aren't other, you know, fit complaints. If you have any, feel free to unload in the comments. But as far as I knew, the only complaint that I've heard is that the neckline is a little bit wide. And there's a really simple way to fix that, to modify that. And I'll explain what I did. But I did finally finish it. It took me a while. This was my Hurricane cast on. And here it is. And again, I'll pop in some footage of me wearing it so you can really see what it looks like on. But I wanted a very simple, very vanilla, oversized, squishy, warm, worsted weight cardigan, and that's exactly what I got. And I'm very happy with it. I know that I was kind of, wrong side, I know that I was kind of, you know, flip-flopping, you know, waffling about which buttons I wanted to use. In the end, I'm super glad I went with these. They are smaller than the original buttons I was planning on using, but I know what it is. It's the color of them. So these are borderline complementary colors, and so because of that, they have as much of an impact as the larger buttons, which were a much ashier, you know, a gray, like an ash gray. I'm thinking ash like the wood, kind of brown. So yeah, I'm glad I went with these buttons. And the fit is exactly what I wanted. It is definitely oversized, which is what I wanted. I believe I made a size 7 in the pattern. And I have a natural 44-inch bust. So I went with a size 7 so it would be nice and roomy. And I cast on 11, I believe it was 11 steek stitches, which for a worsted weight might be a little excessive. But I have never steeked anything before. I've never steeked a garment before. So I wanted to really make sure that I had enough room for me to cut it and to fold it over. And I do have some footage of me doing this. I did video the whole thing. But my big dumb head got in the way. So I'll just show you a little bit of it before my big frizzy, you know, cartoon Miss Frizzle head starts to, you know, pop in. And I also went ahead and took some footage of me actually sewing down the steek, which y'all, I found that so soothing, seriously. So I cut the steek straight up the middle, and then I folded it over and I whip stitched it down. So, and I did that by picking up a couple stitches on the inside, picking up a stitch on the steek, and pulling it through. It was so simple. It took me probably about 25 minutes total. And it was just very meditative. And the thing is, I did this when my grief was really, it was rough. And I'm the kind of person where when I have big feelings, I kind of will, it's insane. The amount that I will go through to not cry it's intense. So I kid you not, all I could hear in my head for like multiple days in a row was, "The Venga bus is coming and everybody's jumping." I had the freaking Venga voice stuck in my head. And it was like a siren. It just wouldn't stop. But when I actually sat down and steeked this and whip stitched my steek down, it's like it stopped. I didn't hear the Venga boys anymore. I could hear my own thoughts. And they were sad because I missed what I lost, right? But I was able to hear them. I was able to listen. I was able to understand, oh, it's just grief. That's all I'm going through. That's what this is. So because before that, my anxiety was really high and it was rough. But I realized I'm not in danger. I'm just grieving. And so that process of going slow, making myself pay attention, it really did slow everything down. And it gave me the opportunity to listen to myself. And it was a beautiful thing. So I do think there's going to be a lot more steeks in my future. And I think I'm going to stop being so afraid of seams. Essentially, that's my plan. So here it is, by the way. I'll show you the finished steek. It's probably not the neatest steek you've ever seen. But again, it's my first one, so I'm super proud of it. And I know there are some ends sticking out. So when I weave in ends, I tend to leave them long. I weave them in, I cut them, but I leave them a little long. Then I block my garment or my shawl, whatever I'm blocking, and then I wear a little bit. And that gives the ends, this is my own personal brand of crazy, it gives the ends time to kind of like snuggle in and do what they're gonna do, so that if they do pop back out, I know, okay, that's probably it. They're probably where they want to be, and I can cut the tails and it'll be fine. So that's why you see some ends. But as far as the modifications that I made, obviously the biggest modification is it's a steek. This pattern is originally a pullover. The original pattern also in this area on the sleeve from the neck down has a garter stitch panel. I took that out. I just wanted a very simple, very vanilla raglan cardigan. And then the other thing I did is I did absolutely no sleeve decreases until the very, very end. So what I did at the very end, the last row before I was supposed to go on to my ribbing, I knit 3 together. I knit 3 together, I knit 1. I knit 3 together, and I knit 1. I did that because I knew it would get me to the number of stitches I needed to my circumference, my wrist circumference. And then I knit 1 more row to resolve those knit 2 togethers, and I went down to my smaller needle size, and I did my ribbing. And that created a balloon sleeve, which is exactly what I wanted. It's exactly what I wanted. And I'm really happy with that. The other modification that I made, because I was warned about the neckline. So I picked up the stitches for the neck. I'll tell you how I did it, and then I'll tell you how I will do it again in the future, because I think I'll probably knit another one of these. I just love the way it fits. So the neckline, I don't know if you can actually see it. I'll hold it up. Yeah, you can. You can kind of see it. There's clearly a line here, right? Part of that's because you're picking up stitches, so it leaves an obvious ridge on the inside. it doesn't bother me at all. Like, at all. I don't even notice it's there unless I'm literally running my finger over it. Like, it doesn't make my neck feel some type of way, but I don't have sensory issues. So, you know, your mileage may vary. But because I picked up stitches there, there's a ridge. And it is visible, as you just saw. But then what I did was I knit a couple of rows extra before I started the ribbing. And in doing that, I decreased. I think I did 2 decreased rows to kind of suck it in a little bit. And I think that was a good way to do it, but I think what I should have done was to knit those rows with the larger needle size. So I knit those rows with the smaller needle size. And so it made a really dense fabric, like a very starkly dense fabric. Again, when I'm wearing it, you can't really tell. You know, usually I wear my hair down and I don't really feel it, and you really can't tell when it's on, but I know it's there. So it's not enough to make me redo it. It's not going to drive me that bananas. But if and when I do this again, I will use the larger needle size to do that. And then when I'm ready for the ribbing, I'll switch to the smaller needle size. So that's really it. Those are the two main differences that I made to the actual pattern, other than the obvious steeked it, which what I did, I steeked. I didn't steek. I had the steek stitches here, right? So the steek stitches were living like here. I picked up and I did the button band. I did that after I picked up and did the neckband, so that here I was picking up the stitches along the neckband here. So it made a relatively straight line, which, don't get me wrong, y'all, I am not the smoothest neckband picker-upper. So for me, this is straight. Some of you guys may be like, that dips. I know it's not perfect. I'm happy with it. So yeah, this is it. This is my Blue Wizards cardigan, which was supposed to be my entry for the Fall Fandom Make-Along, which ended last year. Well, it's done now. And I've actually gotten quite a lot of wear out of it. It's very cozy, it's very comforting, and it's exactly what I wanted. It is, like I said, the Flax Pullover by Tin Can Knits with some modifications, and the yarn that I used with it is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, their worsted weight in their Jurassic colorway, and I think it's fantastic. It's exactly what I wanted. It's nice and cuddly, nice and snuggly. I'm quite happy with it. So, do we want to go on to the actual project, or do we want to go on to swatches? That's the question. Let's go on to the actual project. Yeah, we're going to do the actual project. So, for any new viewers, I design patterns that enable particularly, but not exclusively, nerdy knitters to bring the conviction of their favorite stories, their favorite heroes, their favorite myths, the courage and inspiration from all of those things into their everyday lives. And so Tolkien is my jam. Like you have heard me say, my Blue Wizards cardigan. Obviously, this is the Flax Pullover I just talked to you about, but for me, this is the Blue Wizards cardi, based on the Blue Wizards from Tolkien's Middle-earth. So with that in mind, the project we're going to talk about, and all my returning viewers are like, we know, let's see the project. I know, sorry guys. It is that 70s Hobbit shawl. And no, it was not originally supposed to be named that 70s Hobbit. I knit the swatch and was like, this looks like my great Aunt Fanny's couch. And that was that. So that 70s Hobbit was born. I actually asked people if we could mash up Hobbits with the 70s, what would you add from where? And I'm going to pose that question again because the answers I got, guys, were freaking beautiful the first time. So what would a mashup between Hobbits and the 70s look like for you? This was not supposed to be a mashup of the 70s and the Hobbits. It is inspired by the waistcoat that Bilbo Baggins wears in the first Hobbit movie. So, inspired by, it's not identical. But that's what this is inspired by. And, you know, I do my maroon and gold because those are my favorite colors. They're the colors of my alma mater, Loyola. But I am also I'm an autumn, guys. I can't help it. Even if I'm not actually an autumn, I'm an autumn! I love these colors. They're just my jam. So, as you can see, the first tulip is done of the main color, the main color work chart, excuse me. And if we come over here to the steek, you can kind of see what the daisy will look like. So, because this is a triangle shawl and it's decreasing, the chart has a main repeat And then it has repeats on the sides so that the pattern doesn't just kind of crap out, like peter out. So it has a different chart. When it's published, it will all be in one chart and you'll just have a repeat outlined so that you're not having to flip back and forth between a lot of pages. But that's why the daisy is here, but it's not necessarily, you know, over here. So I did make an executive decision, and I'll tell you about it. So when I cast this cardigan, I would like to turn this into a cardigan. So that's why I keep calling it a cardigan, because I got that 70s Hobbit cardigan on my brain, y'all. When I cast this shawl on, I did so with a provisional cast on. And that was for two reasons. One, I wasn't entirely sure how I wanted to finish it, and I thought I would give myself the time to knit the shawl and then decide. I also thought it's probably going to be an icord. Like, it's probably what it's going to be. Whether or not it was going to be a multicolor icord or a single color icord was really what the question was. Except we ran into a problem. And that's this. It rolls so bad. Yeah. And I mean, it rolls. Like, if I stop holding it, it rolls right back. I thought the color work would be sturdy enough that it would hold itself up. So it's been friggin' miserable to knit this because it keeps rolling. I'm not gonna do that to y'all. Like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna make you guys provisionally cast on, which I know quite a few people are like, eek, about to begin with, and then have you knit an 80-inch wide shawl, 80 inch and like 30 inches deep, with this travesty occurring. Like, that's not gonna happen. So I thought, okay, let's try the Icord Edge and see if that stops it from rolling. It, for the most part, does. As you can kind of see, it does fold over on itself. I have little to no doubt that will block out. The point is that it folds over once and it stops. So, and it doesn't take much effort to kind of unfold it, and then it will stay unfolded. The other one will roll continuously. So however much space you give it to roll, it just rolls. So I'm going back and I'm doing an icord bind off. But here's the thing. It's a 5-stitch icord. I know we typically tend to see 3-stitch icords. An icord could be as many stitches as you want, for anyone who doesn't know. But a 3-stitch icord, it was still rolling. So I was flip-flopping between, do I want to do ribbing? Do I want to do a bigger icord? Except I did not come up with a bigger icord. I don't know if Chelsea of the Knitting Witch Sling, Chelsea, I don't know if you watch my podcast or not, but you were the mastermind behind the 5-stitch icord. I knew that you could do more than 3 stitches, but it didn't occur to me that if you do more stitches, it will be thicker and it may help more. So I was shooting the shit with Chelsea over on the thread on Discord, and she was like, why not just try a 5-stitch icord? Maybe that'll work. And I thought, maybe it will. And so that's what I did. And it worked. So thank you, Chelsea. But if anyone doesn't know how you knit an icord, depending on if you're increasing or decreasing, if you're decreasing, so what I'm doing is an icord bind off, which means you're decreasing. You cast on 3 stitches at the end. You knit 2 of those stitches. You knit the 3rd stitch of your cast on onto the live stitch of your shawl. You either do this by slipping the 1 stitch over the other. You can knit through the back loop. You can knit 2 together. The point is you're attaching that last stitch to the live stitch of your shawl, and eventually the icord starts to form. But what that means is that after you do that, you then slip those 3 stitches back onto your right hand needle or your left hand needle, whatever. I don't have it in front of me. You slip it back onto your working needle and you do it all over again. So that means for every 1 stitch you bind off, you're knitting 3 stitches. This is for every 1 stitch you bind off, you're knitting 5. This is 400 stitches on my needle. That's like 2,000 stitches, guys. So obviously it's going to take time to do. And I put it to Instagram and I asked, would you rather do this at the beginning with an icord cast on, or would you rather do it at the end with an icord bind off, or would you rather do it provisionally cast on, and you do whatever the hell you want? Most people said icord cast on. So that to me is very fitting. So first of all, the icord is absolutely what this needs to be. It's what it needs to be. It's what the pattern is screaming for. I know that this is right. I also really think that it kind of feeds into that Hobbit vibe of slowing down, taking your time. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to preach at anybody. Sometimes you just want the finished object, and I get it. You just want to churn through it, get it done, get your object. I get it. I really do. I get like that sometimes. But kind of like that steek made me slow down, and it really calmed my nervous system, and it was a huge benefit to me. 2,000 stitches is a lot of stitches, but if you decide that it's going to be a journey and it's going to be an enjoyable one, then it will be. If you understand you may not do it all in one go, it's not the end of creation. So it's all about expectation, right? And for me, it's just fitting that a shawl celebrating hobbits is going to force you to take your time. And I think that's beautiful. And I also think that it's something that knitting always does. Like, this is not a fast hobby, y'all. So it's okay. It's okay to have the project that it's like you can just knit your stockinette while you're reading a book or watching a TV show, and you know, you can knit it while you're talking to someone. Like, those projects are fantastic. They're wonderful. But so are the projects that you put on an audiobook instead of a TV show, and you pay attention to your chart while you're listening, and you're getting into the zone. And those are my favorite projects. And so I hope that that's what this will be. And, you know, I hope that you guys can see it that way when it does go into the world. And I did also put it to Instagram, like, are you guys sure you want an 80-inch colorwork shawl? You all said yes. There's 2 of you who said, no, it was never going to happen, to which, okay, you were never involved in the decision to begin with. And 1 said, no, I lied. Okay. The rest of you, which was like, there were so many of you, were like, yes. And you either answered with, yes, but we love you. Take your time. And the people who I'm like, I see you. I see you. I see you. We're very much alike. We're the people who answered, yes. Now stop asking questions and knit, woman. I was like, oh, damn. Okay. Like, those are my people. So it is slow going, but it's going. I'm almost done with 1 repeat of the chart. And 1 repeat of the chart eliminates a certain amount of stitches. So that chart's going to get knit quite a lot. And when it is done, it will be beautiful, it will be snuggly, and it will be warm. And like I said, it will be 80 inches wide and 30 inches deep, because I don't do small shawls. Those are called scarves. And this is absolutely a hill I will die on. 10 out of 10. Yep. I said what I said. So that's that 70s Hobbit shawl. The yarn that I'm using is Knit Picks, Wool of the Andes. They're sport weight yarn. I am not sponsored. They did not give me this yarn for free. I just like using Knit Picks. It's a really great workhorse yarn. It has a little bit of a scratch factor, but I only say that because I just spoke to Naomi of the Yarn Curator, who, if you do not watch the Yarn Curator's podcast, you absolutely should. Naomi is a fellow Floridian knitter. And no, I don't mean she knits string bikinis out of cotton. I mean, she lives in Florida and she knits things, and she also spins. And she's also a huge fan of like smutty romance novels. And yeah, she's fantastic. She's got a ton of really fantastic interests that, you know, she loves to talk about. So her podcast is great. And the makes that she does, they're beautiful. They're really beautiful. And I think she's hilarious. I think she's really funny. And we were hanging out the other day because she's essentially my neighbor. And it's also just nice to hang out with someone, you know, who gets so much of, you know, who I am. We're like tangentially related in so many ways. And hanging out with her is always just a ton of fun. But while hanging out with her, I said I was knitting with Knit Picks Wool of the Andes. And she was like, oh, God, that's scratchy. So I say it because it's not scratchy to me. It doesn't mean it's not scratchy to other people. It does have a little bit of that. It doesn't bother me. I don't even realize it's there, but it is what it is. And I like to use it because it is sticky. So it's good for color work. And it's a really great workhorse yarn that is very easy on the wallet. And yeah, that means that my cost of design goes down, but it also means that I can show you guys this looks this good in a budget-friendly yarn. That's a big thing to me. I like to show that my designs work in budget-friendly yarns and in luxury yarns. So this is out of Knit Picks, and we'll see if I knit another sample or not. I'll do it out of a, you know, more luxury yarn. But yeah, it is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes. They're sport weight yarn, and I don't remember the colorways. And I don't have them near me. I know the yellow is turmeric. I don't remember what the maroon is. But anyway, it's just, these are my colors. I love them so much. This is turning out exactly how I pictured it. And even though it's going to take some time, I think it's really worth it. So it'll be born into this world by the end of 2023. That's what I can guarantee. So anyway, let's move on to some swatches, shall we? So if you watched my voiceover vlog that I did, you'll know that I started working on a new design inspired by Ariadne. So again, for returning viewers, oh my god, she's knitting something inspired by something other than Tolkien. The world is ending. It's not. I also love mythology, y'all. Like, I really do. And Tolkien's gonna come right back. Like, don't worry. You don't have Lord of the Rings up there and the Shire right there. Like, you're not as big of a fan as I am and not continue to knit things inspired by Tolkien. And anyway, I did have this idea for an Ariadne design from Greek mythology in my head for the longest time. And the opportunity to bring her to life came up when Marley of Little Wing Fibers messaged me. And, you know, we started talking about potentially collaborating because we have a lot of overlapping interests, lots of nerdy overlapping interests. Marley is fantastic and her yarn is really beautiful. So I'm very happy to be collaborating with her. So first, in the original voiceover vlog, you saw I was doing the worsted weight version. And this is it in worsted weight. Now, the yarn that I'm using here, this is Malabrigo Rios. So this is not Marley's yarn. But I wanted to get this idea swatched so I can send pictures of it to her so she could really see what I was talking about. And the Malabrigo is not doing this any favors. Like, it kind of makes it a little hard to see, to be honest. But when I finished the worsted weight version, I thought, this is a yoke. This is the yoke of a garment. There's no getting around it. Like, in this weight, this is a yoke. But I was not ready to take on learning how to grade yoke constructions yet. I'm not. I'm still learning raglans, and I'm very happy to be bopping around in raglan world. I'm not ready for yoke construction yet. So that means the worsted weight is not going to work for what I actually want. And what I actually want is a cowl. So I thought, okay, to quote Emerald, bam! Let's kick it up a notch! And went with bulky! Guys! Oh my god! I love it. I love it so, so much in bulky. Holy baubles, Batman. Okay, sorry. I'm just really excited about this. Okay, so you'll see up here there are twists, where down here they're not. That is just evidence of learning on the needles. That's what that is. So these twists will they'll either come down here as well so that they can go into the ribbing, or they'll disappear completely. I haven't decided yet. But this is going to be a cowl. One of those big ass stand-up cowls. And I can tell you, anyone who's like, ugh, God, that's too big. I was a Chicagoan for many years, and this would not have cut it. Like, it just would not have cut it. This, however, is exactly what I would have wanted. So I could essentially just be like, Jesus, take the wheel. Head down. If I get hit by a train, I get hit by a train. I give up. Like, the wind was that bad. The cold was that bad. If you know, you know. But seriously, just having something in front of my face like this, I would wear stuff like that all the time. So that's what I really wanted. And, you know, if you don't live someplace like Chicago, you could just do one of these, you know? And anyway, it's going to be a cowl, so it'll be knit in the round, and it will be a big old stand-up cowl. And it's knit out of bulky weight yarn. It will be knit out of bulky weight yarn. This is also Malabrigo, but again, it's going to be knit out of Marley's yarn. And it is inspired by Ariadne and her red thread. So the myth of Ariadne, she is not considered a hero of Greek mythology, which I think is bullshit. Theseus is considered the hero, and Theseus shows up on Crete, goes to King Minos and says, I'm gonna kill your Minotaur. And okay, great, good luck. No one has done it yet. And the Minotaur lives in this maze, this big ass, you know, intricate maze that people essentially go in and they can't find their way out. But Ariadne decides that she loves Theseus. She sees him on spec and is like, that's the one for me. So she goes and she talks to the architect of the maze, and she figures out how, you know, how Theseus can manage to go through the maze, get to the Minotaur, slay the Minotaur, and get back out. And she does this by handing him a ball of red thread so that he can essentially Hansel and Gretel his happy ass back out. Without her, you really want me to believe that Theseus would have been successful? No. So Ariadne's a hero too. I said what I said. So this is inspired by Ariadne. The maze of the Minotaur, you know, you have the baubles in the middle of even more cables. You've got intricate, you know, cables going back and forth. And that's what, and the baubles are obviously supposed to be her balls of yarn. So I'm in love. This is exactly what I wanted. And it will turn into other things. So that is my Ariadne design, which is probably going to take a hiatus for a little while. Because Marley is still working on her palette, and I am never, ever, 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 ever going to rush a dyer. Ever. There is no rush. This is ready to go, and when the yarn is ready, we'll start. We'll hit the start button and go. And yeah, it's super exciting. I'm really thrilled about it, and collaborating with Marley is fantastic. You know, I had some questions about, you know, the timing of when a bulky weight cowl would come out. Is that timing okay? And Marley just had this fantastic attitude of, we'll figure it out. Let's get the data for ourselves, because Marley and I we're both new. So we don't know if you launch a cowl like this in May or, you know, even June, are people going to knit it? I don't know. We're going to find out. And if you have any thoughts on that, leave them in the comments. So I just really loved that attitude of, let's find out. Like, instead of just, you know, hemming and hawing about it. Okay, that came out of my mouth. But it's instead of sitting here and, you know, analysis paralysis over it, we're gonna do it because it's a nice pattern. I think it's a great pattern, and her yarn is beautiful, and her yarn will be ready to drop when it's ready to drop, and the pattern will be ready, and we're gonna go for it. And I love that attitude so much. So it's been an absolute pleasure to collaborate with Marley. But in that vein, she is working on her palette. And so this is going to be put aside until that palette is ready. And that's totally fine. So Ariadne will pop back up at a later date. But I was just so excited about the design itself that I really wanted to share with you guys. So that takes me to the last thing we're going to talk about today, which is also a swatch. And a collaboration that I'm so fucking excited. Okay, so I know that I've kind of teased it. I've kind of talked about it. If you follow me on Instagram, you will know about it. And if you follow Britta of Baby Cat, you will also know about it. But if you don't, Britta of Baby Cat Yarns and I are teaming up again. And I love it so much. Sorry if it's starting to get creepy. I can't help it. I have crushes on all of my friends. So here's what happened. I am always amazed by Britta's colorways and by her ability to conceptualize color and bring it into the world and partner it with other colors and the palettes that she has. And, you know, look, I've always thought that dyeing yarn is art. I've always thought that knitting is art. The fiber arts are art. I've said this a lot on my podcast. I will never stop saying it. But if there was ever any doubt in my mind, Britta completely washed it away. There wasn't any, but she would have if there was. So I knew that when I knit my first garment, I would really like it to be out of Baby Cat Yarns. But returning viewers will know Superwash Yarn and me are not homies when it comes to knitting garments. My garments that are knit in Superwash Yarn grow, and they do not grow at a reliable rate. And no matter what I do, they grow at different percentages every time. I don't know if it's the construction. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Your mileage may vary, but that's what it is for me. So I messaged her and was like, look, dude, I really love your colorways. Would you ever consider dyeing non-superwash yarn? And I was expecting at best her to say, I'll think about it. Or maybe I would do some for you, but I got to think about it. Instead, she came back with, I am on your level. I've been thinking about this for a while. My stuff always grows too. It's driving me nuts. Let's do it. What do you want to do? Do you want to do a pattern and a palette drop? Do you want to do palette drop, base drop, and pattern drop? And I'm like, oh, like, I was so excited. I was like, yes, she's just like me. Like, when it comes to this, like, here's a kernel of an idea. We're going to blow it up into a whole field of flowers right now. And I loved it. So, and like, to be clear, I'm not taking credit for why Baby Cat is going to be dyeing non-superwash yarn. I have no doubt she was already toying with it. She was already planning on doing it. And I just gave her the excuse to run in and do it now. If I even did that. that is the most that I did. If even that. So, What was going to be Britta carrying one non-superwash base has turned into more than one, much more than one. She's going to have 9 new bases. I don't know that all 9 of those are non-superwash. I think one is a special base that I'm not sure if I can actually talk about it, so I'm not going to. One is a special for sure, and I don't know if it's non-superwash, but there are multiple non-superwash bases coming to her store. And along with that, there's a new palette that will be dropping when my first garment is put out for testers. And that's the Heroic palette. So it is based on, Britta's inspiration was the colors that you can see a lot in Flemish Renaissance paintings. And she nailed it. She freaking nailed it. And some of them actually also came from, paintings that are paintings of myths. Not all of them, I don't think, but some of them did. So part of that palette is also a colorway called Leather. And that colorway is what I'm going to be using for my very first garment. And I think I may have had a little bit of input when it came to this colorway. Because again, I never want to take credit for someone else's work at all. But this is it. This is Leather. And for those of you who know me and those of you who watch this podcast, you might be sitting there going, oh, but Nicole, it's purple. I know. I don't do purple, but I do this purple. So when I do purple, I don't always do purple, but when I do, they're red leaning purples like this one. So, I mean, if you really look at it, it's not that far off from this burgundy. I mean, it is. It's much different, but it's not that far off from this maroon. So I love maroons. I love burgundies. I love Merlot. And like those definitely start to swing purple. So when I sit on this podcast and I tell you I don't do purple, I mean, I don't do lavender. I don't do lilac. And even then, when I say I don't do it, I won't knit myself 100% of a garment out of it. That doesn't mean I won't put it in other things, because purple's a beautiful color. The only reason I won't wear lilac is because I look like a corpse if I wear lilac. Like, I'm tanner than I've ever been because I live in a place where the sun never stops shining, but I am, in my heart of hearts, a ginger. And that means that, my skin tone leans pink. So when you put purple next to it, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. This, however, works just fine. And I'm so in love with this colorway. And I'm going to pop a picture in over here. Over here. Wah! That I sent to Britta when I was telling her about my garment inspiration. So there she is. That's my inspiration. And that this sweater is going to be called I Am No Man. And I'm so fucking excited, guys. Now, it's gonna look familiar when I show you the swatch, which I'm gonna go ahead and do now. So here it is. This is the swatch. It's a massive swatch because I really want to make sure I get the correct gauge. And you'll notice a garter ridge here. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this probably looks familiar to any people who have been with me for a while. This garment was once called the Golden Hall Tee. And it just was never right. It was never right. The fact that it was the Golden Hall Tee wasn't right, because the cables on it are not the same as the cable in my Golden Hall shawl. And I was going to put the massive cable around the bottom, but I knew in my heart of hearts from the very beginning, that needs to go around the bottom of a cardigan, not the bottom of a pullover. And so that got 86'd. And all the finishing I thought I was going to do got 86'd when I started discussing this garment idea with Britta. And then I realized this has always been Éowyn's armor. Always. It's what it has always been. And I was just trying to fit it into a different idea so that it would work. Like, goofy. It was just goofy. This has always been Éowyn's armor. Granted, her actual armor has much more design features on it. But this is what I do, y'all. Like, this is the reason that Éowyn belongs. It's to take that armor and to bring it into something that we can wear every day and it not look like cosplay. Which, no shade to cosplay. I friggin' love cosplay. But, if you go work in an office, you're not going to wear the getup you would wear to your Renaissance fair. Probably not. If you do, please tell me. I want to know you. You're fantastic. But most of us are not going to do that. So I want to bring in that inspiration and the courage and the conviction that we get from that inspiration and make things that we can wear every day that bring all of it in. We carry it with us. And even if it's just our little secret, we know. We know. And that's exactly what this garment is going to be. It's going to be based on her armor, and that armor is informing all the different finishing aspects I'm going to do that I didn't have planned already. It's informing changing the yarn, changing the color. I am going to finish the original Golden Hall tee. I'm going to finish it for me. And, you know, I'm going to wear it for myself. It's made out of cotton, and so it's perfect for down here. But I'm also going to knit myself, you know, a sample of I Am No Man. And I'm so goddamn excited, guys. And, you know, I always think that there's a reason for everything, right? And my Golden Hall shawl made perfect sense as my first design. You know, the inspiration being Theoden and the Golden Hall of Edoras, the Meduseld. My second design was King Under the Mountain, which is in testing. It's almost done. We're getting there. And my third design was Hat for Thorin, which is going to be done before the shawl. But it's the same motif. It's just on a hat. So Theoden being my inspiration for my first pattern made total sense because of where I was at in life. If you want to know more, you could go back and watch my earlier episodes. I go in depth about it. Thorin being the inspiration for my second made so much sense because I was terrified that my Golden Hall shawl was a fluke. And that, I don't know, y'all, I needed that same kind of redemption story that Thorin has. It made total sense. So my third design being, or my third, you know, motif, my third inspiration, it'll be my, you know, potentially not even my fourth design. I may put things out before this is done. But my first garment being Éowyn, being proving that I can do hard things, that glorious girl power moment of I am no man. Damn it, it's exactly what I needed. It's exactly what this needs to be. And oh, I'm so excited about it. I'm so inspired. And it is in no small part because of Britta. It is in no small part because of this yarn. And that's why I love what I do so much, because I get to take someone else's art and make my art with it. And then I get to hand it to you guys so you can go make your art. And it's just epic. Like, I know, nerding intensifies, but like, I just love it because it's all a chain reaction, right? It's all a partnership and we're all in it together and I'm so freaking here for it. Ah! I'm done, I promise. I'm done, I promise. I just love it. And I feel so lucky. I just feel so incredibly lucky, which is actually going to be the last thing I talk about. I remember when I started knitting, I was alone. Like, I was a lone knitter. I tried going to the yarn store. I tried doing knit nights, and they were great. They really were great. But I was clearly an outsider, and I learned a great deal from them, but I never really felt like part of the club. And that's why I created the thread, because I really, really wanted to feel like part of something. I wanted to feel like part of a community. And it was terrifying, y'all. It was terrifying to create this because I thought, what if no one is picking up what I'm putting down? They are. And I'm picking up what they're putting down. So from Dyers that I collaborate with, Britta and Marley, to the people who are Ko-fi members and are members of the thread, it feels so affirming to be part of something that's more than just me. And so if any of what I'm saying resonates with you, if you feel like you know that there's a really awesome community out there and you really want to be a part of it, but you don't know how to find it, join the thread. I am telling you, y'all, it's the most supportive people I've ever met. And I just feel so incredibly lucky to have them. And I want that for you too. It's $2 a month. And that's to keep creepers out. And that's it. Like, it's really it. So give it a shot. Give it a shot. It's easy to cancel. And I just want for you what I feel. I really do. So on that note, I am going to sign off because I'm also looking and seeing that my screen is going to crap out in a minute. And yeah, I will be back on schedule, you know, starting now. Thank you very much for being patient with me, everybody. You know, it was rough. It was rough. And just know, if you are grieving or you're going through a loss, and like, grieving does not have to be that someone died. It could be you're transitioning into a different part of your life. It could be a new job. It could be losing an old job. It could be deciding that a certain relationship was toxic and you don't want to be in it anymore. If you are grieving, I see you. You're not alone, and you're going to be okay. And on that note, I hope you have a really great weekend, and I will see you back here in 2 weeks. If you are a subscriber, a Ko-fi subscriber, I will see you next week for the in-betweener. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.